Well, I was born in New York, moved to Ireland at a fairly young age. My parents moved back to Ireland and was involved with a lot of farm type stuff when I was a kid and always kind of kept it with me. But we moved back here, probably 6th grade, 7th grade.
Trainer Tim Shaw has been well-traveled in his life and training career. He's also a big New York fan. But which team?
I'm a Yankee fan. Grew up a Met fan. Went to Yankee Stadium a lot of games as a Met fan, and I have no problem with the Mets. But I went to Yankee Stadium for my first game, and I just walked in there and I said, wow, it was kind of haunted. And I said, I think I like this. So we kind of jumped ship a long time ago to a Yankee fan, but don't dislike the Mets. I root for the Mets.
How did his training career begin in the United States?
I worked in healthcare for quite a while. It was one of those situations where, someone always says, don't hesitate to do what you really want to do. And just kind of stumbled back into animals and horses.
Does trainer Tim Shaw remember his first winner?
Claimed my own horse. I had $7,600 in the bank and I claimed him for $7,500. His name was Night Reader and he won here. My first race was right here with Nick Santagata. And then a good friend of mine, Mike Inferna, approached me one day, said, you want to train this horse and this horse? And I was still kind of doing double duty with healthcare and the horses, and it got to be too much. And I said to myself, you always regret if you don't try it.
What was life like growing up in Ireland?
I used to run bets to the betting shops for my aunt. She was a big horse racing fan, and in Ireland you have little shops, little storefront shops that are betting shops. And she used to send me with her tiny little bets written on scrap paper. She used to give me her little coins and I'd run down to the betting shop and bet.
Trainer Tim Shaw told us about the town he lived in Ireland.
In Southwest Ireland, it's a little town called Listowel. And they have a fairly big racing festival every September, a whole week. So if you could picture a sleepy little Irish village that swells, it explodes to Saratoga proportions. It is, I've taken roommates from college and said, come on, you got to go see this party. They said, oh, we've been in New Orleans, we've been here, you can't show us a party. And I said, come with me. Spending time there and, going back every summer, basically. Horse racing in Ireland and Europe, it's ingrained, it's almost a tangible thing. You can't help but be drawn in by it because of the sport of it, and everyone, especially in the area where I, lived. And you go into the pubs and there's music, everyone's talking horses, the racetrack is right there in the middle of the village. It's wonderful. So I think that stayed with me in part, and that led me to, to where I am.
Now stabled here at Parks, trainer Tim Shaw has learned various methods on communicating with horses.
I wound up here at Parks after a few years. I was at Monmouth Park for a long time. And I got off the track and started training at like a farm, a training center, where we could go out in the woods and we go up the hills and we could turn the horses out. And that's what I really enjoyed, like taking a racehorse and turning it out for a couple of hours after training. And then you have some of the more nervous ones where they're a little hyper, they're a little strong, and you have to learn that, you have to recognize that maybe training this one hard is actually not a benefit. You're actually kind of, going uphill against this one. You have to back off. And I think that you just have to see what each horse responds to. Some take training, some thrive on training, and some, you really just have to train with a light hand.
Does trainer Tim Shaw prefer dirt or turf?
I like turf racing. That's always been my preference. I just like it. Fairly frustrating in terms of weather, not races come off the turf. It's a frustrating thing at times. A friend of mine, Chuck Spina, told me years ago that a turf horse is a rich man's horse, son, because you don't get to run that often, and when you do, you need to make it count.
Is there a race trainer Tim Shaw would love to win?
The Irish Derby would be some party. I would just love to win that. I really would. Or the Breeders' Cup Turf Mile. I really would. But to take a horse to Ireland and spend some time there and train them up to that race with that pageantry and that amount of spirit and fun, and put the horse on a van and walk him through the town where I grew up and have everyone cheering. How great would that be? And that's what they do. They walk him right through the town to come back and have a little parade. So I think that would be fun.